Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System with another program. And today we are going to make a pair of earrings. Yes, I know we usually make like at least two, usually three pairs of earrings, but this pair is going to take a little bit of doing. So we're just making one. We're going to be wire wrapping and coiling and wrapping some more and coiling some more. So it's gonna take a little bit of effort, and it is absolutely worth it. So we're going to make this coiled bead. It's coiled, it's wrapped, and it's coiled again, like I said, and then we're going to put some beads on the end. It's going to take a little bit of effort, and it is worth it because it is really cute. So what you're going to need for this is 4 sizes of wire. You're going to need 18, 20, 22, and 24. The 18 is what you're actually going to use to wrap your wire, your 24 gauge wire around. I first just used a cylindrical item, but the hole at the end of it was so large that I decided to kind of take it down and use excuse me, a piece of wire to wrap around instead. And that's where the 18 gauge wire comes in. It's just basically what I'm using to wrap my initial coil of 24 gauge wire around. So I need 18 gauge wire, 20 gauge wire, 22 gauge wire, which is going to be the end piece that I wrap around just to give it some decoration, and 24 gauge wire, which is going to make our coil. We also need our usual pliers, our round nose pliers, our square pliers, which I have not taken off of thing here. Yeah, square pliers. My others that I like better. Yeah, these will do. And cutters and a ruler. Those are the things that you're going to need. And you're also going to need 1 head or 2 head pins to put your beads on. Because what I decided to do with mine is give a nod to Juneteenth and use some African trade beads on the end. When I first made this, I didn't put any beads on the end. I just dangled a bead from the bottom. And then I decided that I was going to change it up and make it into a bead that would have some significance. In this case, we're doing Juneteenth, but you can put any beads on the end that you like. So let's get started. Let's get down here to the other camera and let's get going. Okay, the first thing that I have here is about 1 foot of 20 gauge wire. And what I'm going to do is make, put my glasses on, is make a little coil at the end. So all I need to do is make, I'm matching up this one, and I just want to make 2 loops on the end close to the end of my round nose pliers. It doesn't have to be too big an opening down there, which is why I'm not using this guy. It doesn't have to be that big. Okay, so I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way down my pliers, and I'm going to make a loop. I'm going to rotate my pliers until I have a full loop. And once I get that full loop, I'm going to go behind it and keep wrapping until I have a second loop. All the way around until that meets up. So there's where my loop ends, right there at the back where my loop began. So I'm going to put that to the side. I got this. A little blurry. It's trying. So I've got this little coil here. I'm going to put that down to the side. And again, I've got about, you need about 10 to 12 inches of wire for this piece. It depends on how big you want your bead to be. So if I take 24 gauge wire and about 3 feet of 24 gauge wire. I'll get about 3/4 to an inch size bead like this. So I'm going to give myself 3 feet of wire. It's about 1 foot for every inch or so. Did I say inch? Yeah, that's wrong. 1 foot for every 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and I'm going to give myself just a little bit of extra just to be safe. And if I have to cut some off, I cut some off. That's okay. Oops. Get up there. All right. So I've got my 24 gauge wire. And now I'm going to take my little 18 gauge piece of wire that I'm just using to wrap my 24 gauge wire around. Now you can always not cut your 24 gauge wire. If you have a spool, you can leave it on the spool and just make it as long as you want. What I need is to get about 4 to 4.5 inches of coil in order to make my 3/4 to 1 inch size bead. So I'm going to start by giving myself a little tail to hold on to. And I'm going to start wrapping my wire around this 18 gauge piece. And the reason I used 18 gauge, in the beginning, I was just wrapping it around my 20 gauge piece, but this is a little too malleable. The 18 gauge is a lot stronger, and so it holds its shape better, and I don't have to end up straightening it out every 5 minutes. So notice that when I'm wrapping it, you don't have to worry about the wraps coming together, because every few wraps, you can just push it together either with your fingers or with your pliers. And I keep it down here near the end so that I don't have to go all the way around each time. If I keep it down here near the end, it's easier to wrap, and then I just slide it back when I get near the end of the wire. Makes it easier to work with. So just wrap, a few wraps, and then push my wraps together. More wraps. Push them together. Just keep going. That's why I said this takes a little bit of time, effort, but the results are worth it in the end. Now make sure that your wraps are wrapping beside each other. You're going down the wire and not bunching up over the other wires. See, that one got a little out of whack. I'm going to go back and make it a little bit tighter. There we go. There. And push them together. Wrap. And just keep on wrapping. And then when I get down here near the end, I'm going to slide this back so I have space to wrap some more. And straighten that out a little bit so it's not in my way. Keep wrapping. And I only like to do a few wraps. I don't want to get too far down here because it's easier to push my wraps together if there aren't that many wraps to push together. There we go. And just keep wrapping. Takes a minute. or 5 to get it all wrapped. Now see all of the, oops. See, this is why I don't use the 20 gauge, because this is stronger. All the wrapping I've done, and this is as far as I've gotten. Just keep on wrapping. It's not hard, just repetitive. Wrapping. Straighten my wire out. Wrap some more. Get over there. Wrapping and wrapping and wrapping. Now you can straighten this out, but why bother? You're going to coil it up. So why bother trying to straighten it out, for heaven's sake? Doesn't make any sense. Just an extra step that doesn't need to be taken. Slide it back. Keep wrapping. Let's see how much I've got so far. See, I've only got a little over 2 inches so far. Got a ways to go. Keep on wrapping. It's one of those times where you can turn on the radio or listen to some music while you're making your piece. Just something to make it interesting as you wrap away. Wrap, 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 and push. Wrap, wrap, wrappity, wrap, wrappity. People say, I love your videos. Yeah, I'm making a complete idiot of myself. Which is probably what they like. I don't know how instructional I'm actually being. More of a clown, as my dad would say. Okay, push. And let's see how much I have now. Skip, skip, ba-doop, ba-doop. Yeah, a little over 3 inches. Keep on wrapping. I ought to wrap the rest of this off camera and come back and voila, it's ready, but it's almost ready. We're almost there. And see, once you get the wire shorter, it's a lot easier to manipulate because you don't have all of that flopping around in your way. It goes a little faster. There we go. And keep wrapping. Oh, and by the way, I have seen this done and I've seen people say, oh yeah, leave it on the spool. Yes, you can leave it on the spool. But their caution was if you don't leave it on the spool and then you run out of wire before you get the length that you want, you're stuck. Well, in this case, that's not really true. If you run out of wire, you can just add a piece and keep wrapping. It's not ideal, but it can be done. I know because I've done it. And because of the nature of the piece, let's scoot this down a little bit. It doesn't really hurt it if you add a piece of wire because nobody's going to be able to tell. It's wrapped nice and snug around your base wire. So if you have to add, this is one of those times that you can actually do it with very little repercussions. Again, not ideal, better to have plenty more if you need it, more than you need if you have to, but you're not in dire straits if you don't have enough. You can always add a piece on. Which more do I need to go here? Almost, almost, almost. Yay. Another inch or so. And almost finished. See how much easier it is when I don't have so much wire to have to finagle. Keep on upping. Push. Yep. Push. And measure. Let's see how much I've got. Yeah, almost there. Just a little bit more. A few more reps, and I am where I want to be. Okay, let's see. See where I am now. Yes. Just a few more reps. Now, see, I have just enough. This might be a little more, but that's okay. Yes, there we go. Okay, so now that I've got all my wraps in place, I'm going to take it off my 18 gauge wire, just slide that off. Come on for there. Just a caution, when you're wrapping, you don't have to wrap it too tight because you got to get it off the wire. Come on. You know when you want to come off. There we go. All right, so there's my piece of wire. And now I'm going to slide it on to this piece, the piece that I made with the little loops at the end. So let's just slide that onto the wire. Now that is another reason why instead of wrapping it around this piece, because first of all, it's very valuable and it would be kind of hard to do to keep it from bending as you're wrapping. And when I wrap it around the 18 gauge, it makes it easy to slide this coil right on my wire. So I'm going to slide that on and just push the coil up as close as I can get into the coil on the 20 gauge. So what I want to do is cut off this tail. Don't need that. Cut that tail off. Push the end down. and then slide the coil up nice and tight into my little loop, the beginning of my little loop. Okay, and the other end, you can cut that off, measure just to make sure I have what I need. Yes, I do. And then I can cut that coil off. Let's cut that end off. And push down that little end against the wire. Nice and snug. Sure nothing's sticking up. There. Now I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. I'm going to slide it in as far as I can go into my little loop. And now I'm going to wrap my coil around the pliers. Now, I've seen this done with 18 gauge wire. You could have put it on the 18 gauge wire and done it, but this is harder to bend. And what I found was it's harder to get the coils to bend around my pliers if I try to use the 18 gauge. The 20 gauge is much more malleable. And now I want to make sure that my coils are a consistent size. So I want to make sure that I keep the coil at the same spot a third of the way up my pliers. There we go. A third of the way up my pliers, or wherever you started your coil. You want to make sure that you keep your coil in that spot and don't let it get much bigger. And I'm only holding this with my pliers. Do not squeeze down, because if you do, you're going to start to make little spaces in your coil, which you don't want. What you can do is hold it with your pliers and then wrap the wire around with your other hand, and then just open, hold, wrap the wire around. But you don't want to clamp down really hard with your pliers, otherwise you're going to end up with separating your coils, which you don't want to do. So again, it takes a minute. Get it the way you want. I'm just holding and wrapping. Rotate back, hold, and wrap around. Rotate back, hold, wrap, open, rotate back, hold, wrap, and it's just a little bit at a time. Just keep going till I have the coil the size that I want it. And just keep going. And wrapping, open, rotate back, hold, open, rotate back, hold, wrap, and just keep going until I have my coil completed. And you're getting radio silence here. Why? Because I'm concentrating. Just straighten out there. Yeah. Open, rotate back, clamp down, wrap, open, rotate back, clamp down, wrap, and Just keep going. Almost finished. Okay. Almost to the end. Keep on going. Okay. Straighten my little coils out a little bit. A little of that. And now I'm at the end. Once I get to the end, got my coils. Let me check it out. Yeah, there we go. Got my coils. And now I'm to the end that doesn't have any coils wrapped around it, any wire wrapped around it. I'm going to slide it back down. Remember where this was in the beginning. Slide it back down to the spot right there where I started, and finish up my wraps. So there we go. So now I'm wrapping the end just like I did on the other side, on the opposite side. And just wrap 2 times around, just like I did on the opposite side. One wrap and go all the way around until I have a second wrap. So there's where my coil ended, right there in this spot. And this is where I'm going to end my bare wire wrap right there. See if I can get that clear. There, thank you. So there we go. And this is where it ends. This is where my coil ended right here. And that's where I'm going to snip off the other end. Yay. Let's do that. Now I have to adjust it again. There we go. Okay, let's clip that off. Ooh, and I have enough left that I can use that little piece for something else. I always enjoy that a lot. Okay, and push my little end down. Don't want that poking up. And there's my little bead. Yay, yay, yay. See if it matches the other one. Yes, it does. Nice. Very nice. Okay. So now let's just check my little coils, make sure everything is nicely side by side the way I want it. If you see any of them that are kind of out of balance, you can twist it until they look the way you want them to look. That's the good part about this. It is adjustable. There. So there's my bead. And now let's add some decoration. I used red because I'm using my I'm using Juneteenth colors, red, yellow, green. I didn't have white. I'm using this, the silver as a base. And you can use gold wire if you wanted to for the gold or the yellow. And it depends on what kind of seed beads you want to use. Or in my case, I'm using trade beads. Here we go, back here. And I just wanted small beads. You can use larger beads on the end if you want. but that's what I wanted to use. So I need about 8 or 9 inches of wire to wrap around my coil for decorative purposes. What I would suggest those of you that have kits do, just leave it all in one piece. You don't have to cut it off. And then you don't have to waste any. I mean, I'm using, I know it's about 9 inches because I've measured it out. So what you want to do is you can just leave it on the spool or leave it on whatever length you have to work with, and then cut it off when you're finished. Okay, so I've got my wire. Let's scooch this over a little bit, just a tiny bit, get a little more centered. So I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to wrap it, start wrapping around the bottom. See which way I need to go. It's going this way. Yes. So you want to follow the direction of the coil. Just give myself a little tail. Starting it is always the fun part. Come on, come on, come on. See which way am I going here? There's my end. I need to go that way. Okay. Loop. Get it started. And the only reason that I could just make myself a much longer tail, but I am really thrifty and I don't want to waste that tail, which is what's going to happen if I leave too much of my tail on there. I don't like that. I don't like waste. I don't like waste. But sometimes it can't be helped. Okay, so I'm going to get that wrapped around the end. Oh, come on. And what you do not want to do is let it slide down inside these little openings. You're just kind of laying it on top so that it shows up in between the little ridges. Showing them the right way, yes. Isn't so chintzy. All right, I won't be. Hold on to it and just waste a little bit. And then I wanted. Oh, and another thing that you can do is take the end, that out a little bit, and put it down inside the little opening to give you some leverage. There's a fly in here. Doggone it. Hold on, let me get him. I got the fly. That's what happens when you cook Brussels sprouts and you forget to turn on the air vent on your oven. Anyway, as I was saying, grab the tail of your wire and wrap around, or you can put the little tail down in the loop, down in the opening of your bead. I've done it both ways. Either way works. This way you have a little leverage. So let's do that. You might lose a little more wire, but it's not going to hurt anything. So if I put the tail of wire down in the bead, I have something to hold it in place. And then I can use that as a way to wrap around. Now I just need to get it started. And start wrapping it around the bead. Come on, cooperate. Okay, I'm going to take it off to spool. It's easier for me. Okay. Now, let's plug that down in there. Then throw it across the room. That. And start my wrap around the bead. I'm trying to hold this so that you can see what I'm doing, and that's why I'm having so much difficulty, because I know I'm blocking your view, but there's nothing for it, unfortunately. And again, this is 22 gauge wire, and all I'm doing is wrapping it around where the openings of my coil are. Starting is the hardest part, getting it started. Okay, there we go. And when I wrap it, I just want to kind of place it in between the coils. You don't want it to go down into the coils. Otherwise, you won't be able to see it. It'll just get lost down in there. So I'm just going to fold it over and around those spaces. Just kind of rest it on top, just in between the coils. Just keep going. Just wrapping it all the way around. See that? Pretty, huh? Just keep going. When I get to the end, and then wrap it around the end. There we go. And let's check this other end that has it tucked down in there. Get that straightened out. Let's pull that out of there. I'm using coated wire, so I'm being very careful so I don't disturb the coating. Okay. And wrap around the other side. There we go. And just push down that end. Here we go. There. Go to the other side and clip that end off. I have 2 inches left. I hate that. Nothing you can do. Push that end down. And there we have it. Here's my little bead. And just shape it the way I want it to look. Nice, neat, and tidy. And let's get ready to put the other beads on. Where did I put it? I thought I had beads out here. I'm going to have to get them pulled. Sorry. I thought I had them. Give me a minute. Okay, got my little beads. And now what I'm going to do is take my head pin and put a bead on this one. I did green first on the bottom. And then put my bead on, my coiled bead, and put whatever bead you want on the top. In this case, I've got a nice black and yellow striped one, like so. And then I'm going to make my loop. So I'm going to bend my wire back at about a 45-degree angle, because when I find that if you do that, when you make your loop, it's a little more centered on top than if you try to do it on the top and then bend it back. Either way works. Either way is fine. But sometimes I like doing it this way better, especially when I have a little bead on there that's going to roll around. So now I want to cut this down to about 3/8 to 1/2 inch. That's all I need to make my loop. Snip off that end and just make a simple loop with my round nose pliers. Oops, my bead came off. Get back on there. There. So I'm going to take my pliers. I'm going to slide my wire down. And if you're trying to remember how far down you went on your other loop, just slide your pliers on that loop. I can't do it because there's a ear wire on it. Slide your pliers down on the loop and just emulate that when you go to make your second loop. Or you can do like I see some people do and just mark up your pliers. I'm not a fan of that because I figure that mark may not work for anything else. So I'm going to rotate my pliers until I have a loop. Nice simple loop here. Close it up. And there we go. Center everything. There we go. And there is my bead. What do you think? This is a little off to the side. Why? Because my wire's in there and I didn't take it. I thought I cut that out. Let's fix that. Yeah, let's get that out of there. Must be at the other side. Thought I got it all. Apparently not. Come out of there. There we go. Go away. Push that down. Sure that end's not gonna haunt me later. Scratch my ears. And now, close up my loop again. Here we go. Here's my bead. Yay! Neat, huh? Now I just need to make my ear wire. This was my leftover piece of wire. Plenty to make an ear wire with. So all I need to do for that is take my round nose pliers. I just need to go, about a quarter of the way from the end of my pliers. Make sure nothing's sticking out the back there. And make a nice simple loop. Just rotate my pliers until I have a nice loop here. There we go. Nice. Sure it's closed all the way. Yes. And then I'm going to take, because I'm doing the same as I did with this one, I'm going to take a pencil, or you can use the back of your pliers, or you can use a Sharpie. It just depends on how big you want your half loop here to be, your little horseshoe shape that goes into your ear to be. But since I used the pencil for this one, I want to do the same for the matching one. So I'm going to place my pencil to the back of my loop. The loop itself is sticking out this way. I'm going to put my pencil behind it. You can see I've done this a lot. It's got little indentations in it. That's what I'm using my pencil for. I'm going to put my pencil right behind it, just under where the loop ends, where the loop curves under. And then I'm going to wrap the tail around my pencil, all the way around until the tail touches my loop. I'm going to take it out. Looks like a little horseshoe, little shepherd's hook. And I'm going to separate it a little bit, like so, like that. And then I'm going to curve the tail. Give it a little curve. And then I'm going to snip it off. And I can put it up against this one just to make sure I have a good match. There we go. And just make them both the same. Just kind of match it up as closely as I can. And then I'm going to snip that off the same length as my first one. And then I'm going to take my pliers right here at the end. And I'm going to put a little ledge in there, just a little bend right at the end. And there's my ear wire. Check to make sure they're matching. Yes, very nice. One's a little longer than the other one. You can shorten one to match. You want to get it as close as you possibly can to the other one. And the best way to do that is to make them both at the same time. And you don't have to worry about whether or not they match, because they will. There we go. Nice. and just attach it to my earring, to my bead. So all I want to do is either open this loop, open either loop up. I'll show you on this one because I think it's easier to see. And I just want to open it out, flip it up to the side, away from the wire. Slide one loop inside the other, close it back up, and voila. Now, what you want to do with the ends of this, because they're sharp and rough right now, is take a piece of, you can take sandpaper. I use an emery board. Just take an emery board and round it out, just like you do your nails, so that it's not sharp and ready to puncture your ears, because you don't want that. And once you do that, lo and behold, you have a pair of earrings. How do you like that? What could be simpler than that? It does take a little, it's a little repetitive. It does take a little time, but look at the results. Just lovely. And there we are. They're my earrings. Ta-da. I am very pleased. Here they are. So that's our piece for today. Now you see why I only did one pair today, because this takes a little bit. And honestly, these are kind of heavy. They've got 3 pieces of wire in there. They're not, I mean, they're not weighing a ton, but they're heavier than the earrings that we usually make, because it's got like 5 feet of wire in there. It's got a lot of wire in it. Make a pretty pendant too, actually. But anyway, that's our piece for today. That is what we have done. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, I thought I'd put them on so that you could see what they look like. I hope you can see them. It's kind of far away from the camera, but hopefully you can see what they look like. I love them. I really love them. And that's it for the day. That's our piece for today. We've got our lovely coil on coil earrings. And I hope you'll try it. It's really a lot of fun. It's not hard to do, as you can see. It's mostly, I'm just coiling the wire and wrapping it, and then you can add a bead on the end, or you can do, you don't have to add a bead. You can just dangle something, or you can just leave it plain. You don't have to dangle anything. You can just leave them plain as they are. You can also use it as a link. We've done that before, made them into links, which is really kind of neat. But I always wanted to make it into earrings just to see what it would look like, and I am loving them. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is our piece for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I'm going to enjoy wearing these. Let us know what you think, what you thought of the video. If it was clear, if there was anything that you didn't understand, please, please, please don't hesitate to contact me at jewelrygin20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. You can also post pictures of what you make on the library Facebook page. I hope you'll do that, because we love to see what you make. I love to see what you make. You can either send them to me at that email address, or you can post it on the DeKalb County Library Facebook page, so that we can see your progress and your creativity. Until next time, have a great week, have a great weekend, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.